Welcome to the Forex Week Ahead, the first economic calendar in 2022. Bob Mason from FX Empire is joining us today. Bob, good to see you again. What are the most important events for Forex traders at the beginning of this year?
Another big week ahead for the US dollar. Inflation figures on Wednesday will be a key stat. Obviously, the markets are looking towards the Fed and a possible rate hike in March. Another spike in inflation will likely give the Fed the green light. On Thursday, jobless claims figures will be in focus ahead of retail sales and consumer sentiment figures on Friday. Obviously, the markets will also be interested in consumption with the upward trend in consumer prices. For the Eurozone, relatively busy week. Eurozone industrial production, trade figures and unemployment will be in focus. So expect plenty of interest there. For the pound, industrial production and manufacturing production figures, along with trade data and GDP numbers, GDP and manufacturing production will be the key stats of the week.
And what are the main events for the commodity currencies?
Relatively quiet week ahead for the commodity currencies. No major stats to provide the lunar direction, leaving crude oil prices, inventories and market risk sentiment to provide direction.
And what are the major stats? Shall we look at the retail sales and trade figures?
For the Aussie dollar, we got retail sales and trade figures. Expect plenty of interest in retail sales. Obviously, the RBA is looking towards a consumption-driven economic recovery. For the Kiwi dollar, building consensus, no major influence on the Kiwi dollar there. So obviously, we're going to be looking at yield differentials and market risk sentiment to provide the Kiwi dollar direction.
And what about the Asian markets? What are the events that traders need to focus on next week?
For the Japanese yen, no major stats to consider in the week. That leaves market risk sentiment to provide direction. For the Chinese yuan, we've got inflation figures, obviously plenty of interest in inflation, any pickup in inflationary pressure, and that's going to test support for riskier assets.
Any risks regarding the world's geopolitics and pandemic?
On the geopolitical risk front, nothing new to consider. Just need to keep monitoring chatter from China, Russia, the US, and obviously the Middle East and Iran in particular. On the COVID-19 front, we're going to be looking out for the news through the week. Obviously, downside risks remain in terms of vaccine efficacy and any new strains that emerge.
Thank you, Bob, for joining us today, and thank you, traders, for watching this week's episode of Forex Week Ahead. We will see you next week.